Welcome back to DFC Books, the show where we tear apart a text, extract every morsel of knowledge, and feed it straight to your brain.
And if you have a book you'd like us to deep dive into, please do let us know in the comments. We are always eager to see what you're reading.
Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into, an absolute foundational epic of survival literature.
Well, for sure. A book that's this incredible blend of scientific rigor and this thrilling maritime mystery. Jules Verne's The Mysterious Island.
And this is so much more than just another castaway story.
It really is. It's like an exercise in 19th century scientific optimism, but it's constantly being challenged by these unsettling, unseen forces that are just lurking around them.
So our mission today is to really unpack the early essential stages of this whole narrative. Our source material is covering that initial volume, which has the famous title, Drop from the Clouds.
Right.
We'll detail their, harrowing escape from the American War of Secession, that perilous landing, and then the rapid, almost unbelievably ambitious establishment of their colony.
And how almost right away, the island starts hinting that it has secrets. Lots of them.
Exactly. Our focus is to track how they go from being these helpless victims of fate to becoming, masters of their environment.
While also highlighting every single technical and personal detail Verne used to build this miniature world from the ground up.
It's essential to get the context right from the start. This isn't some leisurely voyage that went wrong.
No, not at all. This is a story about self-reliance that's forged under just incredible duress. The narrative kicks off at the absolute height of desperation.
Born directly out of one of the darkest chapters in U.S. history.
Which positions these men as incredibly resourceful survivors from the very first page.
Okay, let's unpack this opening, because Verne, he just throws us right into the chaos. Immediately, chapter 1.
No slow burn here.
We meet these men, and they are already mid-catastrophe. They're already 7,000 miles away from where they started.
And that starting point is Richmond, Virginia.
Which is so strategically crucial.
It is. They aren't just civilians, they're prisoners of war. They fled the besieged city of Richmond on March 20th, right during the siege by General Ulysses Grant's troops.
And their escape vehicle is, it's a highly perilous, completely uncontrolled balloon.
A balloon that has somehow carried them across half the globe in just 5 days. It's an insane premise to start with.
And by the time the book opens, they're over this raging ocean thousands of feet up, and the gas is failing. Fast.
The situation goes from bad to impossible in a heartbeat. They know they either have to gain altitude or they will, without a doubt, perish in the sea.
The descent is just terrifyingly fast. At 4 in the morning, they realize they're only 500 feet above the crashing waves.
And that's when they begin what is, the ultimate sacrifice for survival. They start casting off everything they have left.
Provisions, equipment, tools.
Everything. Literally everything has to go just to gain a few crucial seconds of elevation.
He even mentions their pocket knives are thrown overboard.
And that one detail, the loss of even a basic pocket knife.
Yeah.
It just underscores their immediate, brutal return to the Stone Age.
They're saved only at the last possible second. Land is sighted, and only because Top, the faithful dog, starts barking frantically.
The wind just happens to drive them toward a tolerably high coast, but the landing is violent. It's incomplete.
Right. In the heavy surf, as the basket scrapes the sand, one man, the engineer, he just disappears.
Caught in the current, dragged under the waves, he vanishes almost half a mile north of where they land, all within 2 minutes of them even seeing the shore.
And this immediate loss of their obvious leader, it just amplifies the terror and the desperate need for them to act, and act fast.
That moment of chaos, that frantic search for their missing engineer, that's the backdrop. And against that, we're introduced to this incredible, almost perfectly assembled crew that Jules Verne puts together in Chapter 2.
You really have to appreciate how intentionally engineered this group is. It's not random.
Oh, absolutely not. The genius of the book really lies in the detailed construction of these 5 characters. They're not just people. They are the essential components you would need to rebuild 19th century industrial civilization from nothing.
So let's start with the man they just lost. Cyrus Harding, the engineer.
The scientific and intellectual leader. His reputation for sheer determination preceded him even back in Richmond. He's described as a man of true genius.
Known for his practical skills, his cool head, and just his mastery of applied science.
He is, without a doubt, the irreplaceable brain of the entire operation.
Then you have Gideon Spilett, the reporter.
Spilett, he's tall, over 40, light reddish whiskers, and critically, he has this quick, steady eye that's accustomed to grasping every detail of a scene instantly.
He's characterized by his resilience, both physical and mental. The book describes him as being like a bar of steel hardened in cold water.
Inured to all climates, all circumstances.
Mm.
His journalistic persistence is legendary. The source specifically notes this remarkable feat where he once cost the New York Herald $2,000.
Right. By telegraphing battle results using the first chapters of the Bible to communicate the intelligence.
It's incredible. He is the observer, he's the historian, and he is the unflappable pragmatist of the group.
Spillet's composure is such a perfect foil for Pencroft the sailor.
Ah, Pencroft. Strongly built, sunburnt, bold, dashing. A true American from the North who had sailed every ocean.
He is the man of action. He's the muscle, the enthusiastic builder. He met Harding in Richmond, and he was the one who initiated the entire escape plan.
He's ready to dare anything and is astonishingly hard to surprise. He represents pure, relentless, hands-on labor and nautical skill.
We have to pause and talk about Neb, his full name being Nebuchadnezzar, the devoted servant.
Yes, Neb. He's Cyrus Harding's faithful companion, and his loyalty is so deep it kind of transcends fear, even logic. His grief over the engineer's disappearance is absolute.
And crucially, he refuses to accept that his master is dead until he sees the body.
His conviction is so powerful. He believes a man like Harding couldn't have perished so, quote, vulgarly close to shore. Neb is the representation of this unquestioning, essential dedication and service.
And rounding out the human crew is Herbert Brown, the naturalist.
A young man, only 15, an orphan from New Jersey who Pencroft loves as his own son.
And while he's young, his deep passion for and his very precise knowledge of natural history, it proves immediately and vitally useful.
Absolutely. He had attended lectures from the Beth professors in Boston. He is their resource identifier, their botanist, the essential expert in their immediate environment.
And of course, we can't forget the most faithful member of the party.
Top, the dog.
The essential companion, held close to his master in the meshes of the balloon net through that whole terrifying ordeal.
His bark was the first thing to signal land, and later he becomes the crucial, indispensable guide during the search for Harding.
So these four men representing science, observation, labor, and nature, and a dog, they land on this harsh, desolate coast, and their leader is gone.
Which brings us to Chapter 4, and the immediate terrifying crisis. Shelter and food, without the fundamental technology of fire.
Exactly. So while Spilett heads north with Neb, driven by the reporter's sense of duty and Neb's desperate hope,
Pencroft and Herbert have to tackle the grim necessities of the moment. And they are, for all intents and purposes, powerless.
their initial campsite is in a place they call the Chimneys, which is this complex pile of granite rocks. It offers some shelter, but it's not enough.
Not from that harsh southeast wind and the damp. Pencroft, the pragmatist, he stresses the need for shelter, fire, and food, and that they have to achieve them regularly, methodically.
And Herbert's value just shines instantly. He proves he's so much more than his age.
Right. They find these mollusks clinging to the rocks. Pencroft just calls them common mussels.
But Herbert corrects him. Precisely. He identifies them as edible lithodomes.
These oblong shells that are, importantly, perforators which excavate holes in the hardest stones. That little detail ensures they eat safely.
He also quickly spots rock pigeons, identifiable by the double black band on their wings.
Securing potential eggs and meat.
But then, the absolute core crisis of pre-industrial survival hits them like a ton of bricks.
The loss of fire.
They threw away their matchboxes and tinder to save the balloon.
And the source material makes this loss feel just devastating. Without matches, without a flint or a tinderbox, they are crippled.
Pencroft even notes, with this kind of dark humor, that Spilett would rather keep his notebook a luxury than his matchbox, which is an absolute necessity.
This regression means they have to abandon the idea of cooking. They're facing a meal of raw flesh. They have skills, but they lack that one fundamental tool to transform their resources.
And all the while, Neb is just obsessed with finding Harding. He chooses to stay close to the Chimneys because that was the site of the catastrophe.
Clinging to this presentiment that the engineer survived, his conviction becomes this emotional anchor for the group, preventing them from just succumbing entirely to despair.
So now we get to Chapter 5, the miracle moment of the engineer's rescue.
Yes. The search party, Pencroft, Spilett, and Herbert. They've followed Top's instincts through a violent dark storm for 6 miles.
6 miles along this coast of sandy downs.
And Neb's faith is gloriously rewarded. He has found Cyrus Harding, Alive.
Barely conscious, severely weak on the downs.
Nebbit dragged him to a shelter, a rocky crevice, and nursed him. But even in this weakened state, Harding's intellect immediately asserts itself.
His first conscious words. Before he even asks for food or shelter, he raises the central, strategic question that's going to define their entire new existence.
Island or continent?
It's the perfect distillation of his character, always thinking about the bigger picture, the tactical environment.
And that question just redirects their focus entirely. The first act of the recovered engineer is to establish geographical intelligence.
They have to climb Mount Franklin, the 2,500-foot truncated volcano at the island's center, to conduct a full survey.
It's from this vantage point that they take ownership of their new world.
And this aerial view is critical for mapping and for naming. They christen the land Lincoln Island, a nod to their home country's leadership.
They name the major features. The Mercy River, which flows into Union Bay, Lake Grant, a large freshwater body.
Prospect Heights, the plateau where they'll eventually build their secure home, and the ominous, shark-infested Shark Gulf.
Which Pencroft compares to the half-open jaws of a formidable dogfish.
And this is where Harding offers the first major theory about the environment, one that frankly rationalizes the island's unbelievable biodiversity.
He observes this stark geographic diversity. The west part is rich and fertile, perfect for agriculture, while the north and southeast are arid and desert-like.
And he theorizes that Lincoln Island is the summit of a vast submerged continent.
Doesn't this theory, though, feel a little too convenient?
It does. It's almost as if Verne, realizing he needs to place every necessary resource, coal, iron, clay, saltpeter, varied flora and fauna, on one small speck of land.
He uses Harding to rationalize the improbability of it all.
As
That's a sharp observation. It cuts right to the heart of Verne's thematic tension. Harding is essentially using science to explain away what is clearly a perfect, custom-made laboratory for the colonists.
This idea of a compressed, diverse world is essential to the Verne ethos.
The world is designed to be conquered by applied science. As soon as Pencroft confirms, using his marvelous power of sight, that the horizon is nothing but ocean, the engineer swings into full industrial mode.
They are marooned. They must begin building.
But before building, they have to know precisely where they are. In Chapter 14, Harding sets out to determine their exact coordinates.
Which requires just ingenious resourcefulness because, having thrown everything away, they have almost nothing.
To determine latitude, Harding uses 2 pieces of wood fastened with thorns as a primitive quadrant, or compasses. It's pure applied physics.
He uses a straight line from the horizon and the angular distance to the alpha star, a known, fixed point, to calculate the height of the pole above the horizon.
And that measurement, after some careful corrections, gives him their latitude. They use Spilett's pocket chronometer to keep accurate time for the longitude calculations, comparing local noon to the chronometer setting.
And once that complex calculation is complete, the true isolation sinks in.
The nearest land, the islet Tabor Island, is over 1,200 miles away. They aren't just shipwrecked, they're geographically exiled in the vast Pacific.
And with that sobering reality settled, Harding immediately guides the colony into industrial production.
This is the monumental transformation,
Right.
from a mere survival location into a functioning 19th century economy.
Infrastructure first. They establish their first manufactory to produce construction material.
They find clay, they mix it with sand, mold it by hand, and then bake it in a kiln. They spend 2 intensive days making about 3,000 bricks and tiles.
That's the foundation of their future buildings. And they also discover coal near Red Creek, securing their fuel source.
But the real leap comes in the chemical industry. This is what's absolutely vital.
What?
Because it moves them beyond simple shelter and food and towards sanitation, defense, and high-tech processes.
Okay, let's break down the chemistry because it's detailed and it's crucial. Harding first turns his attention to making natural soda. So why soda?
Well, soda, or sodium carbonate, is critical for 2 things. Sanitation, it's a powerful cleaner, and eventually for glass making.
And how do they make it?
They collect marine plants, specifically glasswort, ficoids, and fucaceae. They dry them, and they burn them in holes in the open air.
A process called calcination.
Exactly. And it results in this compact gray ash mass that's rich in soda.
And what do they combine that soda with?
They immediately use it with dugong fat, which Neb and Pencroft had successfully procured. This starts the process of saponification.
The chemical reaction that separates the fat into 2 key components.
Soluble soap and glycerin.
The soap is obvious, sanitation is survival, but the glycerin, this is where it moves from basic cleanliness to high technology. Why is glycerin such a critical achievement for the engineer?
Because glycerin is a necessary precursor for synthesizing nitroglycerin.
And therefore dynamite.
Exactly. By successfully isolating glycerin, Harding has laid the groundwork for future explosive capability. They're going to desperately need it for quarrying stone and, more importantly, for defense against human enemies, which they will soon discover exist.
So this elevated the discovery from just hand soap to a foundational defense strategy.
And they find the final ingredient they need for that future explosive.
Precisely. They also discover saltpeter, or azote of potash, in a vein near Mount Franklin. This would have been extremely difficult to manufacture from basic elements.
It would require nitric acid, which they lacked.
But nature provided the raw saltpeter, which simplifies the task down to just purification.
The discovery of coal, sulfur, which is easily extracted from volcanic areas, and now saltpeter means they have secured the means to make gunpowder and potentially more complex explosives later on.
It's just a convergence of resources that seems almost unique to this specific island. If you are enjoying this deep dive into industrial age survival and appreciating the shocking level of detail Jules Verne poured into transforming castaways into chemists and engineers, please take a moment to subscribe to DFC Books.
Your support really does keep us bringing you these dense, delightful analyses of the world's most compelling stories.
All right, so moving into the second year, the colony advances, and it advances rapidly. Once bricks and basic chemicals are available, the focus shifts.
To creating a truly permanent, secure home, Granite House.
Granite House is established in this vast cavern in the granite cliff face, 80 feet above the ground. It's an impressive undertaking.
Access is initially by a rope ladder, which is then replaced by this ingenious, complex lift system.
Cleverly powered by water redirected from a stream.
So they're sheltered, they're protected, and they're incredibly difficult to reach.
But Harding understands that survival requires more than just a house. It requires a fortress and secured food production.
So he undertakes this massive engineering feat to isolate Prospect Heights, a 4-mile perimeter containing all their agriculture and potential livestock.
And this is their first true display of large-scale civil engineering. How did he isolate that entire 4-mile plateau?
He channeled watercourses, he redirected the Mercy River and the newly named Creek Glycerin to create a liquid moat, a vast channel that completely encircles the plateau.
It's a transformation of the landscape into a fortress.
It protected the entire cultivated area from quadrupeds and quadrumana-like apes and wild beasts. It took them until the first fortnight of December to complete.
It's a monumental achievement in defensive architecture.
The colony also quickly establishes new resources, mostly through the application of Herbert's knowledge.
Right. In agriculture, their initial investment pays off spectacularly. The first corn harvest yields 800 grains from a single grain they planted.
800. And Herbert makes another crucial botanical discovery that solves their immediate need for flour,
The Cycas revoluta.
which he correctly identifies as the bread tree. Its stem contains this dense, flowery pith.
But they can't just eat it raw.
No, they have to process it to remove a disagreeable mucilaginous juice, which would make them sick. They have to wash it and ferment it. That knowledge turns a potentially toxic plant into a crucial staple.
Domestication follows industry and agriculture. They capture oneigas animals resembling zebra or kanaga using the lowered bridge over Creek Glycerin as a trap.
These are intended to be the colony's draft animals, giving them the necessary power for large-scale farm work and transport.
They also start raising musmons, wild sheep, in a corral built near Red Creek.
And since they lack the complex machinery of looms to weave cloth, Harding develops a method to create Lincolnian felt.
Which is remarkable. They create non-woven fabric by compressing and beating the wool fibers,
Which have been previously soaked in the soap solution they manufacture.
just to interlock them permanently. They essentially skipped millennia of textile technology to produce thick, warm clothing and bedding for the approaching winter.
This relentless push toward efficiency, it culminates in the manufacture of specialized tools. Harding builds a turning lathe.
Which is absolutely essential for making detailed items like buttons, utensils, uniform parts.
And to power this precision tool, he plans a water machine, utilizing the fall of the stream supplying Granite House.
But the pinnacle of this stage of engineering has to be the construction of a draw plate.
A draw plate, a steel plate pierced with conical holes, is required to draw out high-quality iron into fine wire.
And why is wire such a critical achievement for this self-reliant colony?
Because the next step in their industrial evolution is communication. Harding plans a telegraph system.
You need wire to transmit signals.
This is the transition from a 19th century farm to a modern network society. It's a 7-month process from being washed up on the sand with nothing but the clothes on their backs to establishing a fully operational, scientifically advanced settlement.
Complete with its own manufacturing, agriculture, defense, and communication systems. Incredible.
And here is where the narrative shifts dramatically. The settlers are brilliant, they're resourceful, but they constantly benefit from what they themselves start to call unaccountable assistance.
The thematic tension really starts to mount here. Their success seems too smooth, too perfect.
It is the first major crack in the facade of pure self-reliance.
Yeah.
Were they truly alone?
And the earliest piece of evidence suggesting some kind of manipulation is the discovery of that completely preserved chest of goods.
Which just happens to wash up on shore, conveniently timed right after they established Granite House.
This chest contains modern, sophisticated, and incredibly valuable equipment. Firearms, clothes, books, a photographic apparatus, instruments like a sextant and a chronometer.
It restocks their inventory with everything they lost from the balloon and more.
The preservation is suspicious. It's almost impossibly perfect.
And while they speculate that maybe a civilized person expecting a wreck threw it overboard, Harding himself expresses puzzlement over certain things, like the photographic apparatus.
Suggesting the contents weren't precisely tailored to their immediate survival needs.
Right, but rather the highly maintained personal effects of someone who already had a base of operations.
The settlers, particularly the less scientific Neb and Pencroft, they often discuss the feeling that Lincoln Island is under the dominion of some supernatural or hidden power.
Because of these sudden, inexplicable aids.
The mystery deepens further during a moment of real danger. The ape invasion of Granite House.
Granite House is briefly overrun by a horde of quadrumana. When the colonists are trapped outside, a huge orangutan, whom Harding names Jupe, acts with this startling, almost human intelligence.
He throws the rope ladder, which the apes had drawn up, back down to them. He saves them.
Harding spares the animal's life, and Jupe is adopted. He becomes this clever, attentive servant, a waiter, a laborer, a critical asset.
Which proves that this assistance can come in non-human form, suggesting this subtle, guiding influence on the island's fauna.
The mystery next leads them physically off Lincoln Island. Chapter 13. They find the bottle.
A bottle containing a message. A clear human cry for help with these chilling coordinates. Castaway, Tabor Island, and then the longitude and latitude.
This immediately spurs Pencroft into action. Tabor Island is less than 200 miles away, well within striking distance.
Harding, though he's cautious, he agrees to the voyage. Pencroft, Herbert, and Spilett set sail in their newly built small boat, the Bonadventure.
They get to Tabor Island and find clear evidence of previous civilization. A hut, old world vegetables like chicory, carrots, cabbages, and turnips.
Suggesting a deliberate attempt at cultivation.
But there's no man. The hut looks long abandoned, and the neglected plantations suggest the inhabitant left some time ago.
And when they finally locate the castaway, it is an absolute shock. He is not the noble survivor they were expecting.
No. They capture Ayrton, and he is completely brutish, savage, his reason extinguished by 12 years of solitude.
He can only utter these hoarse sounds, and his teeth are described as sharp as if made to tear raw flesh.
Solitude had devolved him into a feral state. It's a powerful counterpoint to the sophisticated ingenuity the colonists have shown on Lincoln Island.
He eventually recovers enough to reveal his true identity, his history. He's Ben Joyce, a former pirate.
Abandoned 12 years earlier on Tabor Island by Lord Glenarvan of the yacht Duncan as expiation for his crimes, specifically trying to seize the yacht.
Ayrton shows this profound remorse for his wicked life, and recognizing that his full recovery requires integration and trust, the settlers leave him at the corral on Lincoln Island to live this solitary working life.
And his redemption is later proven and sealed when Ayrton heroically saves Herbert from a vicious jaguar attack.
The appearance of Ayrton, though, is followed almost immediately by evidence of recent malevolent human activity on Lincoln Island itself.
A bullet. A bullet is found in a peccary, confirming a gun had been fired on their island within the last 3 months.
A definitive sign that they were not alone and that the newcomers were armed.
And the full extent of that threat arrives with the pirate brig, the Speedy. Ayrton, trying to fully redeem himself, attempts to swim out to the ship to deal with them silently.
But he's fired upon, revealing their presence.
So the colonists prepare for a decisive ambush. They position themselves at the channel of the Mercy River. Neb and Spilett, watching at the mouth, successfully kill 4 pirates as they try to land.
The brig retaliates with a cannon shot, splintering the rock, but the pirate boat, caught by the current, is forced to retreat.
The settlers fought bravely, but the threat of the brig, it remains overwhelming.
And then, the second great mystery strikes. One of the truly unaccountable events that absolutely shatters the idea of pure self-reliance.
This beatty is suddenly and completely destroyed by an explosion.
This is the pinnacle of the hidden intervention. It's spectacular, it's terrifying, and it's completely unearned.
The explosion occurs precisely when the settlers' ability to defend themselves against a naval threat had run out. They are saved by an unknown power operating beneath the waves.
The outcome, however, is purely beneficial for them. Before bad weather finishes off the wreck, the settlers manage to salvage valuable materials.
4 guns, iron ballast, tackle. Pencroft, ever the enthusiast, immediately starts planning to build a battery to command the channel.
They hoist the guns up the sheer granite cliff and incorporate them into Granite House, making embrasures between the windows.
Their home is rapidly transformed into a little Gibraltar, commanding all of Union Bay from an impregnable position.
This single event provides them with advanced industrial-age military capability they could never have manufactured themselves.
Unfortunately, the surviving pirates are not done. They later launch a devastating land attack on the corral. They overpower Ayrton,
leaving signs of a tremendous resistance.
and they flee into the forest. Worst of all, during this conflict, they shoot Herbert, inflicting a severe, near-fatal wound in Chapter 7.
The colonists are reeling. The great, mysterious helping hand that destroyed the Speedy has failed them in their moment of highest vulnerability.
Spilett is forced to act as a surgeon, nursing Herbert, while Harding desperately tries to figure out how to warn Neb back at Granite House.
And the loyalty of Top saves the day again. He proves to be the sure and faithful messenger, carrying a written message back to Neb.
Neb responds immediately, but wisely remains at Granite House, realizing the pirates might attack the undefended building if he abandoned it.
The pirates, meanwhile, just go on a rampage across Prospect Heights, deliberately plundering, burning, and devastating the mill, the stables, and the fields,
Erasing months of their painstaking industrial work.
So the colonists slowly recover from the attack and the devastation. Herbert eventually pulls through, thanks to the combined efforts of Spilett and Harding.
But the emotional cost is high, and the feeling that they are alone and abandoned, that the mysterious aid has ceased, it's heavy.
This is the moment they finally confront the truth.
They realize that all this impossible assistance, the initial fire, the preserve chest, the rope ladder thrown down by Jup, the warning about the bullet,
The destruction of the Speedy and the rescue of Ayrton from the convicts.
it must all stem from a single, highly sophisticated and hidden source.
So 3 years after landing, with the threat of Mount Franklin's renewed volcanic activity growing, they finally set out on a final, determined exploration to track this benefactor down.
Their search leads them to the open mouth of Shark Gulf.
They find a hidden submarine entrance near the cliff face, one that's only accessible at low water. After waiting for the tide to recede, they paddle an iron-plated boat into this vast, silent, water-filled basaltic cavern.
The air is thick with anticipation and the weight of 3 years of unanswered questions.
And what they find is one of the greatest reveals in all of maritime and science fiction literature.
The magnificent, iconic Nautilus submarine, piloted by a dying man, the great Captain Nemo.
Nemo has been their silent protector, the true genius of the island, a man of profound knowledge and self-imposed exile.
He reveals the entire truth. He lit the initial fire by focusing solar energy with a lens. He provided the preserved chest. He rescued Ayrton from the convicts after the pirate attack, and he destroyed the Speedy with a torpedo.
He had been watching them for years, admiring their ingenuity and their scientific perseverance from afar.
Choosing to intervene only when their skill couldn't prevail against fate or human malice.
But his life is ending. The submarine, his home, is now his tomb. He gives Harding his final instructions, the ultimate passing of the scientific torch.
Nemo tells Harding to take a heavy metal coffer containing his final wealth, to seal the saloon door of the Nautilus, and to ascend onto the deck.
His ultimate request is a burial at sea, a final escape from humanity's surface world.
He asks them to open the stern stopcocks upon the waterline. The water will penetrate the reservoirs, and the Nautilus will sink beneath the waves, burying his corpse in the absolute abyss.
And Harding and his companions pledge to honor his dying wish.
This meeting with Captain Nemo is the narrative peak. It ties together Verne's literary worlds, the ultimate inventor, disillusioned with humanity, helping the ultimate self-reliant colonists.
A group who perfectly represents the optimism Nemo himself once embodied.
But the revelations come just before the final cataclysmic event, signaling that even the combined force of human genius Harding's engineering and Nemo's technology cannot contend with the raw geological force of nature.
Mount Franklin's fury. The volcano erupts.
It becomes an instrument of total erasure. It loses its cone, turning the crater into this flat, ravaged table. Lava streams down the slopes, vaporizing watercourses like Red Creek and Falls River in its passage.
The island is turning into a scene of absolute, unavoidable destruction.
The destruction is comprehensive. Lava invades Prospect Heights, creating this terrifying battle between fire and water as the torrent flows over the edge of the granite wall and fills Lake Grant.
Vaporizing the water in massive clouds.
The corral, the mill, the stables, the precious fields, the physical legacy of 3 years of relentless labor, all destroyed.
Their entire civilization is wiped clean from the landscape.
The settlers are forced to shelter near the ruins of Granite House, the island completely ravaged and collapsing around them. They had been working diligently on a new vessel, a 200 to 300-ton ship, but the disaster strikes before it's finished.
They spend days in despair on the single, small, ravaged platform of rock remaining near the cliff. The immense scale of their collective human achievement is rendered null and void by a simple shift in plate tectonics.
And just when hope seems irrevocably lost, just as they're contemplating their final moments, a vessel appears in the churning waves.
Lord Glenarvan's yacht, the Duncan.
They are rescued, but the timing and the location introduce a final, lingering mystery.
Captain Robert Grant, commanding the Duncan, reviews they were looking for Ayrton, but they had been led 100 miles farther northeast of Tabor Island, where they expected to find him.
By information they cannot explain. It's a final, inexplicable intervention, a stroke of destiny delivered by the outside world, mirroring Nemo's secret protection.
The self-reliant castaways who built a civilization with their own hands and intellect are saved not by that intellect, but by two external forces.
The hidden genius of Captain Nemo and the miraculous guided intervention of the Duncan.
They return to the civilized world, having survived 3 years, with a new purpose: to use the funds Nemo provided and their vast knowledge to establish a viable colony in a stable part of the Pacific.
Their true creation was their community and their combined knowledge, not the island itself.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Jules Verne's The Mysterious Island. We've covered everything from the lithodomes and the sophisticated process of saponification to the redemption of the pirate Ben Joyce and the magnificent secret of the Nautilus.
We truly witnessed the ascent of man from basic survival to industrial master, only to have that achievement erased instantly by the brutal, indifferent power of nature.
Thank you for tuning in to DSC Books.
Before we go, here is one final provocative thought for you to mull over. The island settlers built their world with sheer intelligence and perseverance, transforming almost nothing into a functioning society. But ultimately, they depended on two great secrets for their survival and escape: Captain Nemo's hidden machine and Captain Grant's rescue, neither of which they arranged themselves.
How much of survival is sheer skill and self-reliance, and how much is hidden, unforeseen intervention?
And if you succeed, but only through someone else's secret efforts, can you truly claim the victory as your own? We'll leave that with you.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.